All right, welcome to ALI-M.O.N.Y, Ali, Mayor of New York, ALI-M.O.N.Y, ALI-M.O.N.Y number 8. Today is October 10th, 2023, Tuesday, 10/10/23. This is the 8th one, so by the time this is done, there will be 4 hours, maybe more. The first one might have gone longer than half hour, but as I said, I want these to go no longer than 29 minutes and 59 seconds because that's enough of a spoonful. If you know how long it is, you may say to yourself, I can use this 29 minutes and 59 seconds to clean something, organize something. I think that's a good use of podcast, or walk around my block. I'll put this on. I'll go do some walking. I think we can all do that. Now, if I said do some gardening, people might think, gardening, who gets to garden? But you may buy a pot and a plant, and you may do it in your living room somewhere. I think it's something nice to have some living thing that you've given life to. And to some degree, we want to be able to plant things that we may not see the bounty of it. You know, that could be a tree. The people who planted redwoods, they're not going to see how high that redwood goes. And in the city, it's much like that. The people who work on infrastructure in parts of the city, the ones who did it are gone. The people who built the Empire State Building, they're all gone. Many of the great buildings of New York City that you walk around, you think to yourself, who built this? The beautiful churches and synagogues and mosques, they're gone most likely. Those people came and went. That's the amazing thing when you think about it, that in 100 years, it'll be all new people. For the most part, everybody you know will be gone. You'll be gone. I'll be gone. The city will still remain, but what will be the state of the city? What will be the circumstances of living in New York City? Because right now, if we don't make decisions right now and maintain them on a daily basis, it will deteriorate. Today I heard they are going to have congestion pricing between $9 and $23. $23 you're going to add to someone's daily costs to drive. And then that money's going to go to trains, which is fine, but my gosh, is no one thinking about the man or woman who's got to come up with this money? You just think it's unlimited, that we can just keep adding prices? We can keep adding to their daily costs, and there's no going to be some type of blowback, some type of eventual decay? Is that what it's come to? Don't we want to live in a city that promises less and delivers more? To say, look, we're going to find a way where there's less traffic, but it's not going to come at a cost to you. Do you agree with this? Are you willing to say, look, you can drive your vehicle, if you have one, on these days if your license plate ends in an odd number or an even number? And if you don't, then you get a ticket. Do we all agree to this? And the price of the ticket potentially, I don't know if it would generate as much as the price of $23 a day to come into certain parts of the city. And what happens if you need your vehicles, or you live in that area already? I don't know. I don't know what the end game is. And as I've said, I do not want to be mayor of New York. I like the idea of it. I'd love to be in a show about being the mayor of New York. I think that would be fun. I mean, as I said, I'm still a small-time actor, small-time comedian. Still would love to play small roles in film and television. Still enjoyed my time doing that. Was not a fan of sitting in a trailer, and a lot of what you do as an actor is hurry up and wait. You spend a lot of time sitting around to go into set and do your thing for a limited amount of time. And as most actors will tell you, you get paid to sit around, not to act. The acting you throw in for free, but it's the sitting around. But again, I would happily be on a solid TV show about somebody who runs for mayor, who had no political experience, never been in politics, never held a student government position, never really ran for anything like that, but ran small businesses and got to a point where he thought, I don't know if everybody knows how challenging this is to run a small business, and the people who should be our politicians, and again, politicians hopefully are taking a break from their actual careers to be politicians for 4 to 8 years. And I think if I was mayor, among the first things I would do is make it 1 6-year term. So if I was elected mayor and I was elected for 4 years, on day one, I would sign something that made the mayor's term 1 6-year term. And then after 4 years, I would either step down or I would run for an extended 2 years to make it a total of 6. That would be the plan. I think the tree of democracy needs fresh blood. I believe Thomas Jefferson said that, and again, he's a very polarizing figure now, and people are conflicted about him. He is the architect of the Declaration of Independence, which is possibly one of the greatest documents out there in the canon of government and democracy. But he also took some liberties with his place and privilege with people he owned who were slaves. That has to be acknowledged. You cannot discount slavery in history, but again, I don't want to get into that, although yesterday was a federal holiday. Some people call it Columbus Day. Some people call it Indigenous People Day. What will it be called in 50 to 100 years? I don't know. And ideally, it becomes Global Indigenous People Day, because it's not just in New York City, where the people who were here first were the indigenous people, the first people, the Native Americans. But that's globally. All over the world, there are places that there were people there already, the indigenous people. And someone came along with guns, germs, and steel and took away their land. In some cases, imprisoned them, murdered them. But that's the reality of our history. But people don't want to hear that, because what do they do about it? If they're of that ethnicity, if they're of the culture that they were the colonizers or the marauders or the ones who showed up and took away the land of the indigenous people. You know, they say the meek shall inherit the earth, but they also say once they inherit it, how long will they be able to keep it? Because there will always be barbarians at the gate. Since the beginning of time, people have fought over land, money, property of various kinds, resources. And if you had the wherewithal to kill people, enslave them, then you could take over what they had. And then they would forced to become warriors, warrior poets, forced to figure out how to take their farm tools and make them into weapons. I mean, if we deploy people into various areas, I have no issues with sending 50,000 troops to an area if they're 50,000 farmers, plumbers, electricians, sheetrocks, carpenters. I think the United States should try to deploy forces and resources. But maybe we should do that into our own cities first. So instead of deploying armies with weapons, we should deploy armies with tools and farming tools and implements and power drills and saws, and help areas rebuild. I think the Army Corps of Engineers does this. And I think the Peace Corps was a matter of going and helping. But I think we need to cultivate a different kind of Peace Corps. Maybe it's a combination of Habitat for Humanity, where they're building homes for the homeless, and a bit of the Peace Corps, and a bit of a military, because again, if you send people in who are not protected, even on work sites, if you don't lock up your work site, people are going to come in, they're going to steal your copper, they're going to steal your tools. There's always going to be predators. There's no way around it. I think I mentioned that the theater got robbed the other day. Somebody came in, they were looking around, they saw a cash box that was unlocked, and they took the money and they left. And that's it. And the police officer called them opportunists. She goes, we see it all the time. It's people who are just going around looking for a phone that's been charging, or a laptop that's sitting there, or cash that's been left out, or a backpack. They're just going around as an opportunist looking for people who just took their eye off the ball. And that's going to happen in any society, unless you make certain things accessible. I mean, if there was a cantina of some kind where people could get something to drink, something to eat, I don't know if when I walk around the city of New York right now, are there enough jobs for people? And those jobs that are for people, do they make enough where they can live in New York City? Or are they going to be traveling in from far away? And then what are their living circumstances like? And some would say, well, it's still better than where they came from. But I mean, do they have a room of their own? Do they have a view, necessary or unnecessary? Do they have a bathroom that works? Do they have a shower? Do they have a cold box to put in a few items to keep cold? Do they have the ability to make ice? Ice is a luxury. Ice is food. The Department of Health will tell you that. You can get sick off of somebody with dirty hands handling ice. And as you hear, horns honking. I'm on the second floor of our little comedy theater, and I'm making these recordings, alimony, to see what my thoughts are for people to hear this. And maybe one person listens to this and says, hey, I like your ideas. I'm an actual politician. I'm going to take your ideas and I'm going to implement them. Hey, good for you. God bless you. Because my ideas are simple. It's not rocket science. It's clean streets, safe streets, free streets. Now, right now, the world is at war. There are 2 major wars going on. That's not including all the skirmishes, all the 5,000 people fighting 5,000 people, and 10,000 against 10,000, and 100 against 100. I think that would be a good show. Now, if I had green light capabilities and I could produce something, I would love to see a show that's nothing but the various wars and skirmishes going on a day-to-day basis, where every day you recap what are the different wars, what are the different skirmishes, what are the different fights, where are the Hatfield and McCoys? Maybe it gets down to that level. The Hatfield and McCoys were essentially families, 2 families that were fighting against each other. And from the Hatfield and McCoys, it goes up. And I mean, the original was Cain and Abel, 2 brothers who loved each other, but also had sibling rivalry. And to some degree, that's the beginning of war, Cain and Abel. 2 coming from the same root. 2 religions potentially coming from the same person, Abraham. And now they're fighting. It's become so tribal now. Red versus blue. And then now purple enters the game as a different option to the red and the blue, but purple is a combination of red and blue brought together. And I suppose I would be purple. I can't really say that I'm fully red or I'm fully blue. I'm somewhere in between, I think, in the purple category. And as far as the 2 parties go, I don't know if I would be comfortable in either of the 2 parties or whether they'd even want me. I would probably have to start my own party, and if I did, it would probably be the Tenants Party. Tenants, tenants, like a tenant. Someone who rents from somebody else, a renter. Because ostensibly, that's what I am. I am a renter. I am a tenant. I'm a sharecropper. I rent pieces of land from landlords, and I utilize that land best I can to create spaces and places for people to gather, to collaborate, to commiserate, to create, to have stage time. And right now on the streets, I don't know if you can hear it, there's barking, there's screaming. It's 29th between 6th and 7th in New York City. There's a public storage facility across the street from where I speak, 17 stories high, 3 stories below ground, for nothing else than for people to store their stuff. Now, the same land could have been used to build a think tank, build a school, build a library, build any number of facilities that the city of New York would benefit from. But the people who had the money didn't use that money to build that. They used the money to build a public storage facility because that makes money. And as Ben Franklin said, money makes money, and the money that money makes more money. See, most people know that money makes money. They've heard that. And it is true, because you do need money to make money. And whatever that is, whether that's enough money to buy a broom and a dustpan and go door to door and say, look, I will sweep outside your shop. If you give me a chance, I'll sweep outside your street for this amount a day. So it takes some money to buy that first broom, that first dustpan, that first window cleaning kit to begin. But what he really meant was money makes money, and the money that money makes more money. And that's what public storage is. They had enough money to build this structure for $77 million for the footprint of the land, and around $80 million for the building. And they put it up quick. So $160 million roughly. They built it, and they say they'll get their money back in 3 to 5 years. Because every one of the rooms they have that you rent, every 30 days you've given them a credit card and the money's going to come out of your account. And you think to yourself, well, it's only $200 a month just to pour my stuff into one room. Okay, $200 a month becomes what, $2,400 a year? $24,000 in 10 years to put your stuff. I suppose if it gives you peace of mind, you're not ready to part with it, then okay. And you think to yourself, I'm just going to use it for a little while. I just need to put my books there, my pictures there. I need just to put a few things from high school there, from college there, from this relationship I was in there, some magazines there, some old albums there, some paintings I have I'm not ready to get rid of. And okay, if it gives you peace of mind. See, everything I think we're looking towards is trying to get peace of mind. It's very hard to have peace of mind in the city now. One, because you just don't know whenever you walk if you're going to encounter some precarious situation with somebody, especially if you go underground. You go underground on a train, you don't know what you're going to encounter. You've got to have your head on a swivel. And I think anyone who comes to New York should just be aware. Keep your eyes open, look around, have situational awareness, walk around with a certain amount of command presence where people will think twice before messing with you. And that doesn't mean putting on a hard face like you would have on the first day of a prison or something. But I mean, you got to look after yourself, because there are folks out there now who I think normally might have been in a place like Bellevue. They might have been in a mental ward. They might have been in a facility. And now they're just out and about. And again, it's not their fault, and maybe it's not even their responsibility, because they don't even know how to deal with it, because they probably don't think there's anything wrong. Or maybe they do know there's something wrong, but they don't know what to do. We need to treat this city like a natural disaster. We need to treat this country like a natural disaster happened. We need to treat the world like a natural disaster happened, because then we mobilize. Then we jump into action. We send in the Red Cross. We send in teams. We want to help each other. We want to make sure people have water and some shelter and some clothing. But right now, we've just gotten inured, meaning we've gotten used to the state of affairs. We're not looking at it with fresh eyes. We're not looking at it like parents who left for 2 weeks and came back and the house has been demolished. It just little by little became more and more demolished. Today, I'm having a friend of mine, a young man I know, he's coming and he's just painting mailboxes. He's painting over graffiti. He's cleaning up graffiti. He's just taking our block and he's just making it a little nicer, because he's a good guy and he needed a day of work. And okay, a few hours coming in and just making the block a little better. It's as good a way as any to put money into the economy. And I encourage people who have small businesses to figure out a way to give somebody, the right person, some money to clean up, sweep up, paint, make your area nicer. I walk by this Italian restaurant every night as I walk our dog. And there's a mailbox, a green one, literally 5 feet away, 10 feet away from their shed, their door. And the mailbox is a graffiti mess. It is a cry for help. It's one of those green mailboxes that everybody's tagged. Everybody's marked on, put a sticker on as if that's going to do anything. And to me, it's an Italian restaurant. So I think, why not paint it the Italian flag colors? But maybe they don't even know it's possible. They don't even know. They probably think if you do that, you'll get arrested. No one's going to arrest you because nobody's coming. And if somebody does come, you say to them, hey, this thing is a mess. Here's the photograph on my phone of what it looked like. We're just repainting it green and, adding a little bit of red and white. I believe that's the Italian flag's color, green, red, and white. We're just trying to make it a little nicer. It's our Italian restaurant here. I think it's called, what's in that, Bistangos? No, it's called Barolo. Nice little place. I think it's across from Smith and Walensky on 49, maybe, between 2nd and 3rd. We got this mailbox here, and we're going to make it a little nicer. We're just going to paint it, scrape off the stickers and just do a little scraping of the dead paint. Give it a nice coat of green paint, a hunter green, then a nice robust red maybe around the borders, and then maybe some white, something just to throw it in there. Just trying to make things a little nicer. I think anybody would be cool with that. It wouldn't cost that much. It would probably cost you, and you'd probably get somebody to do it who's already working, who's, a dishwasher, a porter, a cleaner, a cook, and just say, hey, can you do me a favor? I grabbed a couple of quarts of paint. I got this roller kit. Can you just paint this for me? I'm thinking about doing it myself for them and just going, look, I tried your food once. It was okay. I mean, again, it's, it's fine. I worked in Italian restaurants, so I have a very high threshold of what I think is great Italian food. But it's fine. It's good. I'm sure it's good people. It creates jobs. So I'm not here to shoot down anybody. Hey, if you're a good place creating jobs, good for you. You're a small business. You have my heart. But I want to encourage small business and buildings to take it upon themselves to start painting what they can. Whether it's mailboxes, fire hydrants, blue mailboxes with that blue. Wherever it gets graffitied or tagged, if we don't paint it, more tagging is coming. So again, I guess I'm fortunate in a way because I don't own a car. I don't have a desire for watches, which is a thing, or jewelry, or clothes. So, I'm 55. If I want to spend a little bit of money paying somebody to paint a mailbox or to freshen up a block, that's my prerogative. And I think that's the trickle down that Ronald Reagan was talking about. He kept talking about trickle down economics. But what Ronald Reagan couldn't do and didn't have the ability to do is explain what he meant. Even as the great communicator that he was, he couldn't even simply say, and I don't know if anybody even ever asked him, what do you mean when you say trickle down economics? What they're talking about is at a very high level, the people who have the most will trickle down by spending money on what? I guess he thought cars, houses, watches, clothes. That's what they're going to spend their money on. Dinners out. All fine ways to spend money, I suppose. But again, he could have kept it simple from the ground floor, which is get a sandwich at a new sandwich shop. Get some flowers from your local bodega that started selling flowers on Fridays for your partner. Fresh fruits and vegetables from your corner fruit stand. Small ways. Get your clothes you're not wearing. Bag them all up. Take them to a Goodwill. Drop them off. Maybe run them through the wash first. Then if you want, get a few nice items. Donate 10, buy 1 or 2. Keep it simple. You see, that's the trickle down. It's going to have to happen. And again, I want to keep these fairly evergreen, these half-hour conversations about running for mayor and my ideals, because right now there are major wars going on. There's genocide going on globally. Major war in the Middle East. Saddens me. I don't know what you do. At a bar, when there's a bar fight, no matter who started it, you throw both parties out of the bar. Nobody gets to stay at the bar. You can't explain, hey, but it was his fault. He threw the first punch and I was just defending myself. It's like, sorry, you both got to leave the bar. I don't know how you do that with countries, and unfortunately we choose sides and we become very tribal. But right now, civilians and innocent people are suffering on both sides. Everywhere. In the major wars, there's 2 major wars going on. I don't know how you can't say we're not in a world war situation when there is a war going on, a world war between 2 major countries exchanging major firepower and 2, I wouldn't say equally matched, warriors. But there's war going on right now. But what can I do to help? Again, I can try to keep our side of the street clean. I can paint mailboxes that have been graffitied. I can pick up garbage as I do my errands, walking to wherever I'm walking to get a cup of coffee, or I'm walking from one business to another. If I see a piece of garbage, I can pick it up. I can try to keep the spaces that we manage clean and organized best I can. That's what I can do. I can try to walk around with love in my heart. I can see people who sometimes are not seen. I can walk around with gratitude in my heart for what I have. I can realize how much worse it could be in my life, even though right now we're going through some challenging times because of a new business we started that just simply is not getting the customers. People love the space. They say it's beautiful. They love the food, but it's just not getting the customers. And at the end of the day, it's a matter of the costs are just too high. The rent is too high, but the rent is the market rate. The electrical costs and gas costs around the kitchen are just too high, but it's the rate. Insurance is too high, but it's the rate. So there's not much you can do. And I don't know who business is going to be for anymore if it's not for the small mom and pop trying to open up a small business and putting everything they got into it. Because you put everything you have into it and then it doesn't work. Why did I even do it? And you really have to use an immense amount of mental martial arts to try to stay positive. That's why I have, I would say, a soft spot for small business. And if I could be the patron saint of anything, I would be the patron saint of small business. Of those people who rent a space and they put a business in there and they try and they give it a go. And I think the mayor of New York, it's important that they understand what it's like to run a small business of any kind, where you're paying rent every 30 days, where you've got to deal with insurance, you've got to deal with every aspect of running a bricks and mortar space in New York City. I think they're the heart and soul of New York City and the world. I think small business is the only chance, one of the few chances for rebirth of city-states, nations, is to encourage people to open small businesses. But how can you when people hide behind the market rate? And as I said, if I was a member of or started the tenants party, where you don't have to be a tenant to join, but it helps, it would try to bring together all the tenants, whether they are tenants of residential spaces or commercial spaces, to be on the same page. And I don't know, honestly, what you could get done, because the rate is the rate. And there's always somebody who's willing to, sign on the dotted line and say, you know what, I think I can make this work. I'm going to give it a go. I know it's the market rate, and then the market rate stays there. The challenging part is, as individuals, we're not connected in the same way that the yellow cab had 13,000 medallions, 50,000 drivers, but not one single voice that spoke for all of them. And by the time that maybe they got connected, it was almost too late, and Lyft, Via, Uber, Get, whatever else was already here. I think now they're doing better because the rates have gone up. So hopefully they're making a little bit more, but it has changed my taxi cab habits. I only take it in emergencies, when I have to take it, or when I have a load of stuff. I just don't take it willy-nilly anymore. Whereas when it was $10 to go back and forth from here to home, I would take it more often. It was $10. Now at $20 to $25 for that same ride, I'd rather walk to 3rd Avenue and take the bus home, or try to get in my, 10,000 steps. And I think walking in a city like this is a great way to just get exercise, a great way to see your city. And as you're walking around, you can't do it everywhere, but if you can pick up a piece of garbage here and there, throw it in the garbage can, it gives you a chance to bend over and do some kind of bear crawling, gives you a chance to work on your fine motor skills. I think, one of the great things about New York, and I don't think New York is a blue zone area, which means places where people live to be older, but it still has elements of it in terms of we get a chance to do more walking upstairs, walking around where we live, and it's up to us in terms of our diet. But the fruit stands, if you're lucky enough to have a fruit stand near where you live, and I have one a block away, you could do nothing but eat off a fruit stand, and the fruits and vegetables, they have both, and do fine for yourself. Those prices, the prices of bananas, 4 bananas for $1, still seems fair. I've seen it as high as 5 for $1. That's a great deal. And I've seen 3 for $1. You go into a bodega, they're going to be about 75 cents each for a banana. 2 for $1.50, no deal. But there's certain ways where the city of New York, I think, is still affordable. It's affordable at the fruit stands. It's affordable at walking around. I'm wary of the price of $2.90 for a train. I think that's edging it on up there. I think I'm a little wary of congestion pricing. I don't think that's the best way. But as I said, I don't want this to go over 29 minutes and 59 seconds. I wanted to be able to talk to you for a little while and get these down. I believe this is the 8th one, so 8 times 30 is 4 hours. And it's given me a chance to keep talking out loud. Some of it may have been repetitive. And maybe somebody's going to use this to fall asleep, and they say, you know what, your voice puts me to sleep. But okay, you seem to be as good as anybody who's running for mayor. And again, I don't know what the future holds, whether I will actually run or not. But I do want to put out some thoughts out there, and I hope somebody borrows these thoughts of clean streets, safe streets, free streets, because I love New York City, and I hope in my heart that New York loves me as much as I love New York.